Right. Let's talk about America, the United States, the land of the free, home of the brave, and currently the global champion of awkward family dinners. It feels like the entire country is one big Thanksgiving table where your uncle is yelling about cable news, your cousin is live streaming her outrage, and everyone else is just trying to pass the potatoes without starting a civil war. The political tension is so thick you could cut it with a spork. We are not just disagreeing on things like taxes or healthcare anymore. We are now fighting about everything. Coffee cups, cartoon characters, the very concept of reality itself. It's exhausting, isn't it? The cracks in the foundation of the nation are starting to look less like cracks and more like giant gaping canyons. It's as if two separate countries are trying to occupy the same piece of land, each with its own set of facts, its own news sources, and its own version of history. This isn't just a simple disagreement between political parties, no, that would be too easy. This is a deep, emotional chasm that has turned neighbors into strangers and family members into political opponents. The very idea of a United States is starting to feel like a very, very old joke that no one finds funny anymore. It's a crisis that is shaking the very soul of the nation. Think about it. We've reached a point where seeing a particular bumper sticker on a car can make your blood boil. A hat can feel like a declaration of war. How did we get here? How did a country that once prided itself on being a melting pot turn into a pressure cooker with a faulty lid? The problem is that this isn't just happening in Washington, D.C. among politicians in fancy suits. It's happening in grocery stores, in school board meetings, and on our social media feeds, which have basically become digital, gladiatorial arenas. The constant conflict is not just background noise, it's the soundtrack to our daily lives. This isn't just a phase, it's a fundamental test of whether a diverse, democratic society can actually hold itself together. The stakes are incredibly high. We're talking about the stability of the oldest continuous democracy in the modern world. When people stop believing they are part of the same team, the game itself starts to fall apart. And right now, it feels like half the country is playing football while the other half is playing baseball on the very same field. It's chaotic, it's messy, and someone is eventually going to get hit in the head with a bat. This is the reality of America in 2025, a nation on the absolute brink. So what's causing this national meltdown? It's not just one thing, it's a misery lasagna, if you will, with layer upon layer of problems. First, let's look at the politicians and the media. They figured out that fear and anger are fantastic for business. Outrage gets you clicks, donations, and votes. So they feed us a constant diet of it. Every news alert, every campaign ad is designed to make you believe that the other side isn't just wrong, they are actively trying to destroy your way of life. It's a brilliant business model, really. If your business is setting the entire country on fire, then you have the cultural and social issues, which are like gasoline poured on that fire. We are not just arguing about policies, we are arguing about identity. What does it mean to be an American? What values should we hold dear? These are not small questions, and the answers are becoming more and more different depending on where you live or what you watch. Add to that the fact that many people feel left behind by economic changes. When you lose your job or see your town decline, it's very easy to look for someone to blame, and there is always a politician or a pundit ready to point a finger for you. Let's not forget the role of our dear friend, the internet. Social media algorithms have created perfect echo chambers. Your feed shows you things you already agree with, making you feel like your opinion is the only correct one. You are surrounded by digital cheerleaders, all telling you that you are right, and the other side is crazy. This makes it incredibly hard to understand or even listen to a different point of view. It's like living in a house where all the mirrors only show you what you want to see. After a while, you start to believe that's the only reality that exists. Finally, there's the personal element. We have stopped talking to each other. We unfriend people on Facebook for having the wrong opinion. We avoid certain family members at holidays. We are isolating ourselves from anyone who thinks differently. This lack of personal connection makes it so much easier to see other people as caricatures or villains instead of as complex human beings. When you don't know someone personally, it's easy to believe the worst about them. This toxic mix of political strategy, cultural anxiety, technological division, and personal isolation is the perfect storm that is tearing America apart at the seams. This isn't some abstract political science debate. This crisis has real, tangible consequences that affect everyday Americans. Trust, the essential glue that holds a society together, is dissolving before our very eyes. People are losing faith in everything: the government, the media, the courts, and even in each other. When you can't trust your institutions to be fair or your neighbors to be decent, society starts to break down. Simple things, like accepting the results of an election or believing a news report, become massive points of conflict. It's like trying to build a house on quicksand. This division is also seeping into our personal lives and communities. Friendships that lasted for decades are ending over political arguments. Families are being torn apart, with parents and children or brothers and sisters no longer speaking to one another. Holiday gatherings have become minefields of forbidden topics. This emotional toll is immense. It creates stress, anxiety, and a profound sense of loneliness. We are becoming a nation of isolated individuals, huddled in our own ideological corners, afraid to reach out for fear of starting a fight. It's a sad state of affairs when silence becomes the safest form of communication. The economy isn't immune to this either. Businesses are now being judged not just on the quality of their products, but on their perceived political leanings. A company can face boycotts and public outrage for taking a stand, or for not taking a stand. This puts employers and employees in an impossible position. Do you cater to one side and risk angering the other? This uncertainty is bad for business and can even impact jobs. Communities suffer when local businesses are caught in the political crossfire, further weakening the social fabric that is supposed to support everyone. Ultimately, this constant state of conflict is impacting our collective mental health. Living in a society that feels perpetually on the verge of collapse is incredibly stressful. The constant barrage of negative news, the fear of saying the wrong thing, and the loss of community connections are taking a heavy toll. We are becoming a more anxious, more angry, and less happy society. The American dream was never supposed to include a constant feeling of dread. This daily grind of division is wearing people down, making it harder to be optimistic and harder to focus on the things that truly matter in life, like family, community, and personal well-being. So, where is this all heading? If you listen to historians and political scientists, the people who actually study this stuff for a living, the picture they paint is, to put it mildly, not great. Many are sounding the alarm, warning that extreme political polarization is a classic ingredient for democratic decline. They point to other countries throughout history, where deep divisions led to political instability, violence, and even the collapse of democratic governments. They're not saying this will happen tomorrow, but they are saying that the warning signs are flashing bright red. America is not immune to the forces that have torn other nations apart. One of the biggest dangers is the erosion of democratic norms. These are the unwritten rules of politics, like conceding an election gracefully or respecting the legitimacy of the opposition. For democracy to work, everyone has to agree to play by the same rules. But when one side starts to believe the other side is an existential threat, they may begin to think that breaking the rules is justified to save the country. This is a slippery slope. Once those norms are gone, it's incredibly difficult to get them back. It can lead to a state where political power becomes the only thing that matters, not the will of the people. Experts also warn of the potential for increased political violence. When people feel that the political system is no longer working for them and they see the other side as evil, some may turn to violence as a solution. We've already seen glimpses of this, with protests turning violent and threats being made against election officials and politicians. Historians will tell you that this is a predictable and terrifying outcome of severe polarization. A society where political disagreements are settled with violence instead of votes is a society that has lost its way. This is not a distant, theoretical threat. It's a real and present danger we must confront. The ultimate fear is a future where the country is fundamentally ungovernable. Imagine a situation where half the country refuses to recognize the legitimacy of the president, no matter who wins. Imagine a government so paralyzed by gridlock that it cannot respond to a major crisis, like a natural disaster or an economic collapse. This is the future that experts worry about. A future where the United States is no longer a functioning republic, but a collection of warring tribes unable to solve its common problems. The warnings are clear. If we continue down this path, the America we know could cease to exist. That should be a sobering thought for everyone, regardless of their political beliefs. Right, after all that doom and gloom, you're probably ready to move to a secluded cabin in the woods and communicate only with squirrels. And honestly, I don't blame you. But hold on, it's not all hopeless. There is a glimmer of hope, because for every person shouting on the internet, there are others quietly working to stitch the country back together. These are the unsung heroes of American democracy, the people who refuse to give up on the idea of us. They are a reminder that the loudest voices aren't always the most representative. There is a quiet majority of people who are tired of the fighting and just want to find a way to live together. Across the country, there are amazing organizations working to bridge the divide. Groups like Braver Angels are bringing together reds and blues not to debate politics, but to listen to each other's stories and find their shared humanity. They host workshops where people who disagree fundamentally can have structured, respectful conversations. And you know what they often find? That the other side isn't a monster. They are people with families, fears, and hopes just like them. These efforts show that it is possible to disagree without hating each other. It's hard work, but it's happening. You can also see this hope in local communities. While the national news focuses on conflict, local stories often show a different picture. Neighbors helping neighbors after a storm regardless of who they voted for, parents from different political backgrounds coming together to improve their local school, people volunteering at the same food bank, working side by side to help those in need. In these small, everyday interactions, the political labels fade away, and what's left is just people helping people. This is where the real work of healing begins. At the grassroots level, in our own backyards. Ultimately, the future of America isn't just in the hands of politicians, it's in our hands. We have a choice. We can continue to retreat into our corners and yell at each other, or we can take a chance on conversation. We can choose to see the person behind the political label. We can support organizations that promote dialogue and understanding. We can start small by having a respectful conversation with a neighbor or family member we disagree with. The path back from the brink will be long and difficult, but it is not impossible. America's greatest strength has always been its people, and it will be its people who pull it back together, one conversation at a time.